Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 179.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I am so glad that you are here today because we are going to talk about that cash flow, right? And I'm sure you're surprised, right? But not really. Here's what we're really going to talk about. We're going to talk about it in a different way that a number of you have asked us. You ask me these questions all the time, and that, you know what? I don't know everything, and I'm so glad to say that. That means we can find and track down and get introduced to all the people who do know the things that you guys want to know. Most specifically, what happens when your investor identity, and we've talked about investor identity in many different ways. You can slice and dice the real estate pie so long as you are serving the specific real estate market you think you know how to serve best. You know how to serve that customer. That's where you're going to do well. Many of you know that we like the cell phone towers, apartment buildings, etc. But many of you have also asked, hey, Jay, what about assisted living facilities? What about the elderly? How on earth can we help in that particular area with our real estate? And I've had to say repeatedly, you know what? I just don't know. I have no idea. I know that it sounds like a great idea. I know it's probably the only way to cash flow property, especially in California. And now we're going to have an opportunity to talk to an individual who's been doing it for a long time. Not only has today's guest been doing assisted living facilities, but this is something you need to understand. He's been an investor for 30 years, 4 books, 2 radio shows, and over that 30-year career, let's just say he's refined it down and he believes he has found the number one best way to create cash flow, and he has settled on just assisted living facilities, residential assisted living facilities, to be very, very specific. Now, today's guest is none other than Gene Guarino. And what I want you to think about is he has a marketplace all to himself, so to speak, of about 77 million baby boomers. And today, he's going to share with you how you and he together can now go serve a whole bunch of people. So help me welcome Gene. Gene, you there?
I am, Jay. That was an awesome introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome, and I'm glad that you are here. Now, most of the people who have been listening for a while, they know the first question I'm going to ask you because I ask nearly everybody the same thing. And to get you up to speed, it's more like this. I look at today's entrepreneurs, which of you are one, of course, a lot like yesterday's superheroes. So, yesterday's superheroes, let's say that's Batman, let's take Superman and the Hulk and et cetera, et cetera. They all, go around and use their special abilities to help and improve people's lives. Occasionally they get dressed up and wear something, different than their normal clothing. But the whole goal is that they go around and use what they do know how to do, their special talents, in a way to improve somebody else's life. And I think entrepreneurs do the same thing. However, before the Hulk was the Hulk and before Spider-Man was jumping off buildings and Superman was out chasing bullets, etc., they were somewhat normal people. They had an origin. They came from somewhere. So before you were out there and in the investing world, before the version of Gene that's before us today, what we really want to know is, who is Gene Guarino?
Wow. That's a pretty heavy question right there. Who is Gene?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think what you mean is where did I start before I got into real estate and investing, period?
No, I actually mean who, because
No.
I strongly believe, and there have been so many clues many times when someone has said, yeah, I grew up on a farm, XYZ, this, that, and the other, and this is what I did, and then this is how I got into investing. All those types of things have played in and made many, many clues for a number of our listeners to figure out how they might be able to actually make those switches and there's changes, because I think there's a lot of clues in our past that
Wow.
indicate what we do now in our future.
Well, that was unexpected, Jay. So I like it. Here we go. So number one, and I know this sounds odd because it's not business or real estate, but I'm a child of God, and that's a number one. Beyond that, from a human on this earth perspective, I'm an entrepreneur, a business person. I see opportunity and I see a way to help people fill that void and make a profit from it and help a lot of people along the way. So getting back to the very first real estate project, I was 18. I was a musician. I had a music school and a recording studio. By the time I graduated from high school, we had over 300 music students there. We had 5 of the high school music teachers working for us, and I was a student myself. So we started there and played, but we were renting a building. The landlord was terrible. So we literally went out to the front and said, we're either shutting it down or we've got to get our own. I looked up the street, saw a for sale sign, walked up the street, pulled it out of the lawn and brought it home. That was way before cell phones. Called the phone number from our rotary dial phone at home and ended up buying that property, no money down, because I had no money. I had no credit. I had no idea what this thing was all about. But that was the first property. Bought it for $28,500, put $15,000 into it, and sold it 5 years later for $147,000. And from that point on, I was hooked. It's like, this is good. So we did multifamily, commercial, the whole bit. But after all of that, just like you said at the beginning, 30 years later plus, there's one thing I'm doing, and that's the residential assisted living facility. The opportunity is just enormous. The clientele is growing. They're dying to get in. It's kind of an assisted living joke right there. But people are getting older. There's more people here, and they need care. They're not ready for a nursing home. It's more than the Golden Girls. They need that in-between place, and that's us. And we can help a lot of people and do a lot of good. So I like to teach people to do good and do well, and that's what we do in this industry.
Yeah, I can hear that in the mission and the vision of where you're coming from, but I just want to make sure that everybody heard something very, very interesting. Most of the time when I ask the guests, and many of them we all have that entrepreneurial spirit from youth. Most of the time they're saying, yeah, I sold Girl Scout cookies and we did the candy thing. You said you employed some of the teachers at the school.
Yep.
Like if there was an award for most impressive in high school, you just won it for sure, because that's a serious entrepreneurial start, my friend. So was mom and dad an entrepreneur too, or you just came to you?
Actually, my father was a college professor, so he was definitely more of the learned type, if you will. So a real teacher at heart, and I get that from him. But my mother, I think maybe to get us out of the house, because we had 7 kids in the house, she was always having us do these oddball entrepreneurial things, like go pick up sticks, wrap them in a bundle, and sell it to the neighbors. Call it kindling for kids. Seriously. So it was a way to get us out of the house, I think. Go run around the block and pick up pine cones and glue them on a board and sell them as Christmas trees and all kinds of things that I think we learned entrepreneurism just by being family and just doing that. So yeah, we did the lemonade stand, sold pumpkins, sold apples, sold sugar cubes door to door, things that we wouldn't even imagine our kids doing today. But then as you get into a little bit older, you move into other things, and I won't touch on all of those other things. But then you're selling candies to your friends in the high school. But the whole music school thing was a gas, because I was a professional musician at a young age, had a band, couldn't play around a whole lot because I'm 16 at that time. By the time I was 18, as I said, it was really cool to go down the hall and say to your teacher, "Don't be late for work later today."
That is hilarious. I love it so much. Now, just also remember though, very few people, and you might want to elaborate on this. In fact, I think I want you to. Very few people listening to us right now have probably seen a rotary phone, and even less have probably seen the Golden Girls. So help us understand specifically who that target market is, because when you say assisted living facility, who knows, many of us come up with a different picture.
Yeah. So let's dive right into it because I think that most people, the picture they come up with, Jay, is that big institutional hospital looking building. And it's not that. That's a medical facility. That's a nursing home, doctors, gurneys, the whole bit. And then back in the 70s, there was a TV show called The Golden Girls, which was four mature women living in a house. Picture a ranch style house, and they each have their own bedroom. And then they come together for meals and hanging out in the family room. So they were taking care of each other, but just living alone. So in between those two is assisted living where you need help. I mean, some of you listening right now, you probably have a mom or a grandmom or granddad for that matter, who is, they can't take care of everything. Maybe they need help making sure they get their medication. Maybe they need help cooking food. Maybe they need help dressing or bathing or toileting or something like that, but they don't need a nursing home, but they can't just be at home taking care of themselves. And you're looking at it saying, well, I'd love to take care of them, but either I don't have the time, can't quit my job to do it, or it's just not who I am. Not everybody's built to be a caregiver like that. So now you're looking at it saying, well, how do we do this? How do we, have this relationship as a child, but also make sure that our parent is taken care of? And that's where we come in with that assisted living. So what we do is we do it in a single family home where you take a regular home, might be a little bigger than the average home, but a regular home, and you have real people living in it. And there's caregivers that show up for work during the day, caregivers that show up for work at night. So there's 24/7 care. The seniors who live in the home are visited by their family. The kids come by to visit, and their kids might be 50 or 60 years old. So there's another paradigm shift. I'm 54. So I'm kind of in that sandwich generation where I've got kids in college, and on the other side, you may have a parent that needs to be taken care of.
Right.
So you're right inside that. I can't just quit the job and go take care of them. And again, not my skill set. So what do? So you can go to the big box, and some of you have seen that in your own neighborhood where a Brookdale or a Sunrise comes in, a big REIT comes in and builds a big, huge complex, looks like an apartment building and so on. And it's impersonal. It's 100 yards to get to breakfast. It's, one caregiver for every 15 residents. And it'll cost $6,000-7,000 to stay there.
Right.
Or you have my model, which it's the house next door where there's only 10 people in the home. And there's one caregiver for every 5 people. And the meals are home cooked and when you want them. So it's a whole different feel. And that do good and do well, the do well part, we'll make sure to talk about that because you can definitely make a lot of money helping other people.
Well, and again, at the Cashflow Diary, the only thing we focus on is cash flow. We are not the fix and flip kind of persons. And so I get the question a lot, what are some of the creative ways, especially from those in high price markets, what are some of the creative ways to go out there and, take these, what I think to be overpriced homes and actually make them work in our own quote unquote backyard. And so this topic has come up multiple times. And that's why I'm really excited to talk to you because it's something I have a personal interest in and have started to go down. And I definitely want to ask, a number of those questions. But I guess the major thing that comes is I want to give everybody an idea of some of the other things that you've tried and specifically why, and for the sake of this conversation, we'll just use ALFs. Why are ALFs the place to be as far as you're concerned?
Got it. Well, I think, for the reason why it's called the cash flow, show, this whole concept of we do it once and we get paid again and again is really resonating with me at this point in my life. When I was 18 years old, making $100 was exciting. And, when you're 25, buying a home and making $100 a month on a buy and hold is exciting. But today that doesn't cut it for me. And if you want to make $10,000 a month, what does that mean? I have to have 100 houses. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of tenants, toilets, and turnover. So even from a buy and hold standpoint, single family homes or even a 2-unit, a 4-plex, something like that, it's not quite there for me personally. So what's my other choice? I could do a trailer park. I could do that, but there's not that many of them. And it's not really the choice that people go to a trailer park. It's more like I settled on that. So it's not necessarily the high end. And I've done Section 8, I've done single family, I've done multifamily, I've done commercial level rent, buy and hold, rent it out. Just doesn't fulfill me. I haven't done a trailer park, but I've worked with individual trailers in the park. So doing it that way, and you can definitely make money. You could sell the notes and make good money, but it's not necessarily the location or the clientele that got me excited. So there it is from what I've done in the past and how it compares. But now let's talk big opportunity. 77 million baby boomers. 10,000 people today are having their 65th birthday. 4,000 people today are having their 85th birthday. And that number is just growing and growing and growing. The number of seniors 65 and over in our country will literally double in the next 15 years. By 2029, there'll be over 110 million seniors in our country. It's exploding on the top end, and they're not bringing in new inventory like kids like they used to. I came from a family with 7 kids, and my family, we've got 4 kids. Today, 1.5 kids is kind of the average. So there's not a lot of new people coming in, and people are lasting longer. They're living a lot longer. So they're going to have to be taken care of. And it's a huge burgeoning megatrend. And that's what I look for is what's the megatrend? Where's things going? Not where are they today, but where are they going to be 10 years from now? And this business is awesome now, but it's only going to be exploding in the next 10 or 15 years because the baby boomers today are between 50 years old and 70 years old. At 70, you probably don't need assisted living, but at 85, they're checking in. So it's good now, but in 15 years from now, as the tsunami of the seniors come to shore, this thing just gets better and better and better.
Well, and I'm guessing that at some point you don't have to worry about the late night wild parties.
Well, they end by 8:30, but they're still wild.
Right. Got it. 8:30 done. Excellent. So here's some of the things that I know for myself personally, because I looked into this because I was trying to figure out how can I make Southern California single family real estate work. So before we start talking about some numbers, give us an idea in your mind from your experience. One, how many of these, units have you done or homes have done in this fashion? And more importantly than that, if I'm driving down the street, what's the typical, character or makeup of either that neighborhood and or house that says, yeah, that this is a good possibility?
Got it. And I'm also going to add to that, what do most other people do? What's your competition, quote unquote, look like? So For myself, I heard about this whole thing, Jay, about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, that's when I heard about it and I wanted to learn more and there was no place for me to go. The person who I heard it from wasn't willing or able or capable of sharing it with me. Here's what to do. So it's like, okay, it's there. I know it's good, but I want to learn more. So as I went on over the course of years, my mother, I needed it for her, couldn't find what I was looking for, came back to the forefront. It's like, I really need to do this. So I learned what I could. And then I did my first one 3 years ago. And then the first one led to the second, led to the third. And that's where I'm at today. I've got 3 in Arizona licensed for 10. So 30 beds. Now, if one home can produce $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 net per month, you don't need a whole lot of these things to live happily ever after. I'm not in this business to have 100 of these around the country. I'm just at 54, you kind of lose let me build the big, huge something or other to pass on to somebody or other. I live very comfortably and I don't need to spend 80 hours a week doing it. The home itself, I might visit it once a week and I might spend 5 to 10 hours a week, maybe on paperwork and business related things to it. So 3 is the short answer. The next thing is, what are you looking for? Well, actually, I wanted to answer this one first. What most people do in this industry, it's a mom and pop industry. So they have a house, they live in it, their kids move out. They look around and say, I've got 4 empty bedrooms. What am I going to do? And they say, well, why don't I just move some seniors in? I'll make some extra food, do some extra laundry. I'm just going to do a care home. And in California, as you mentioned, RCFE is what they call it, residential care for the elderly. The other words are board and care. But a lot of people in California specifically will stop at 6. Why? Because if you have more than 6, you have to have a sprinkler system, fire suppression in your house. So they go, I can't do that. That'd be too expensive to spend $15,000 on a fire suppression system. Well, stop. Let's say you're charging $5,000 per person and you can have 4 more people in your home if you had a fire suppression system. So you can make $20,000 a month more by paying $20,000 once on that fire suppression system. To me, as a business owner, that's a no-brainer. You pay it once, you make it every month for the rest of your life. It's a no-brainer. So most people do this as a mom and pop. They just take a normal home, just breeder box, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. They move 2 seniors into a bedroom and they've got 5 people living there and they're taking care of them. Make a little extra food, a little extra laundry. Before they know it, they're trapped in their own home. That's not what I'm teaching people to do. What I do and what I teach people to do is to find a more substantial home, bigger physical size. And I'll describe what that looks like so that we can have 10 people, 12 people, put the fire suppression system in. But I want to be charging 10, 12 people, $3, $4, $5,000 or more a month. And then I hire caregivers. I hire managers. I hire people that prepare food and take care of the day-to-day nitty-gritty so that as the business owner, I can walk away with that check for 10, 15, 20,000 a month. So the house you might be looking for, the best house, the ultimate house would be a single level. You can certainly do it with a 2 or 3 level, but you need a way to get the seniors up the stairs. So that's a chair lift or maybe an elevator. All right. So single level would be the primary way. Second would be I want a home that has some good square footage, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 square feet. I can always add, but I want to start with what's there. Then I'm going to look for something that has potential, meaning does it have a garage that's attached? Is there a porch that I could convert? So the idea of converting existing space is easier than an addition. But an addition is fine as long as I have the right lot and I can do it within that community. But now backing up, it's, well, where should I do it? Where should I do it? And the location is really key. And the location, here's the key, it's where the kids live. See, the kids, you and I, we're going to be paying for mom and dad. So the home has to be convenient to me. It's not going to be on the outskirts of town. This isn't a, if you build it, they will come, Field of Dreams. It's on the outskirts of town. Yeah. So you want a place that's close to the people that have money. So I want to be in more of an affluent area. It doesn't need to be Beverly Hills, but affluent meaning they're making 80 to 200,000, in the household versus 30 to 50,000 in the household.
Right.
Because when we're saying it's going to cost $4,000 or $5,000 a month, I guarantee you most of those people were not planning on spending that money. So if they're making $100,000 a year, it's easier for them to come up with it than if they're making $40,000 a year. So an upper middle class neighborhood, which is what I'm looking for, located in where there's population. If you're in a rural area, not going to work as well. You can have one there, but if it's in a populous area, for instance, I'm in Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, this area here, there's close to 2,000 licensed care homes like I'm describing in Maricopa County alone. 2,000. Wow. It's amazing. But there's other places. I was doing a training in Omaha, Nebraska, and there's like 0. There's some memory care. There's some dementia care, but just a residential assisted living for somebody who doesn't have heavy dementia or memory, so on. There's like none. Well, why? Well, nobody's thought of that. There's the big place down the street. Well, what if somebody doesn't want to move into the 200 unit apartment complex type assisted living? There's no alternative for them. So I'm working with students there who are doing their first homes, and people in New Jersey. I'm from upstate New York. I couldn't find what I was looking for with my mom in upstate New York, but I have a student out in New Jersey who's doing his first home. He said the only thing he could find is one person who has an old home, and he called it an old smelly home, by the way, getting $5,400 per person in shared rooms, and they're full with a waiting list. So his first home will be licensed for 12. He'll average $6,400 per person. And it'll be a much nicer place, a much nicer home. And chances are he will fill the doors and have a waiting list as well. So,
okay. All right. I mean, my brain is firing on 12 cylinders right now, and anyone who knows me knows that's exactly what's going on, because they are. I'm sure somebody right now is running to go grab their pen because they're like, Jay is going to start asking him some questions, and they are absolutely right, because there's so many things that are going through my head. When I was trying to figure this whole thing out, and you hit on it, you said it at the beginning. You said licensed for 10. It was that's exactly where I got stopped. I was like, this whole licensing thing, and trying to just demystify that process or piece in and of itself was like, because it made it seem like, and this is probably why you're the expert here and I'm not, is I'm going, I got to become a nurse or something. I missed it, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I just want to provide the real estate and run the business. And yeah, okay, sure, I've got to hire some people, but I was going to hire people anyway. But those are the things that begin to go through my head. It's like, I'm not, you don't want me drawing no blood or looking at nobody. It's nothing and cleaning. It's not going to go well. So help me understand.
There you go. Let me allay your concerns. Number one, some of the common questions I get are, do I have to be in the medical field? The answer is no. You don't have to be a doctor, a nurse, a dentist, or any of that, period, done. So now somebody's going to manage the home. And in most states, there is some kind of requirement that they have, let's say, 2 years of quote unquote healthcare related experience. Could be that they were a former caregiver in a home health aide. Maybe they were a doctor or nurse or something, but you and I, business owners, we don't need that. We do want to have a manager who will be licensed properly for it.
Okay.
So number two, there's no medical, there's no drawing blood, there's no bags hanging on, sticks. We don't do anything medical in the home. It's just like grandma living in the home, cooking food and so on. Now, she may need help with bathing and all that kind of stuff, and that's what the caregivers do. If she needs a lot more help after that, you can even have hospice come and visit mom in the home. See, in hospice, a lot of people I know from myself, my only experience was my father. We had a 2-level house and he was living downstairs with my mother. And when it came towards the end, the hospice came in and it was like a vigil. It's like light the candles. This is the end. Some people are on hospice for years. It is for end of life care, but we have hospice coming in to visit residents in the home, helping them with some specific needs and so on regularly. Probably 3 or 4 out of 10 are on hospice. So anyway, not medical. Another, concern that people have is, well, what about the liability? I'm just going to jump into that because I know some people are thinking that. Well, the reality is, again, it's not medical. So this isn't like malpractice insurance. What you do need is a very specific type of liability policy that costs about $1 a day per resident. So if you got 10 residents, $10 a day, $300 a month, that's about what it costs. Might be a little less, a little more depending on, but that's about it. So for $300 a month, your liability insurance for this specific business is taken care of. I forget what the other question he asked was, but that's where my mind went.
Oh, so. Don't worry, they're coming back because I think it would be neat. You're giving me a new way to create cash flow. Anytime I find a new way to create cash flow, I get interested, and this is something I haven't considered specifically. It's something I actually started the process and going to meetings and trying to figure it out, and then I got confused and I ran into the same thing. You said I didn't was like, who knows how to do this? And it was like crickets. I'm like, well, I'll just come back to it later because there's lower hanging fruit elsewhere.
Gotcha. And licensing. That's what you asked about.
Yeah, it was all about the licensing. That's what stopped me.
All right. Gotcha. So here's the thing. That's actually a good thing because it's going to keep a lot of people out of this industry. And that's good for us that are willing to do a little bit of extra work.
Right.
So here's the deal. When it comes to licensing, if you show me the rules, I am really good at following rules. And with governments, problem is sometimes they change the rules. Sometimes they don't even know their own rules. But every state has a set of rules, and there's paperwork you have to fill in. The license, quote unquote, is basically for a couple of reasons and a couple of steps. The reasons are they want to make sure the people living in the home are safe, well taken care of. So that's the reason for the license. So what are they concerned with? They're concerned with, is your home safe? Does it have fire? Does it have smoke detectors? Does it have fire suppression? Does it have the right exits? Do you have grab bars in the bathroom? So those are the kind of things that are important in regards to why they have the license and what does it take. So before we get to the license, your home will be inspected by the fire chief, by a building inspector. You've got those kind of inspections. The paperwork itself, it really is it's funny because I was in Texas doing a training. The application is 18 pages long, 18 pages long. And most people look at that and go, forget it. I can't do it. I'm out of here.
Nothing compared to a grant. Dude, I'll do that.
Oh, right.
I'm all day 18. I'm like, that's it. All right.
But the thing is, on the 18 pages, there's only 11 questions. Some of them are 3 pages of fill in all the owners. Well, what if you're the only owner? That took up, a quarter of 1 page, name, address, phone number. So it gets daunting to the person who doesn't know what they're looking at. They say 18 pages, I can't do it. There's 11 questions. Who are you? Where's the house? What are you going to be doing? Who's the manager? What services are you going to be providing? Now, I know I had one of my students call me the other day and they said, they're asking me for a site plan and what do I have to do? Go to an engineer and spend thousands of dollars to get it? No. Just get out a piece of paper and, a ruler and a pencil and just draw up, here's the outline of the house. Because at some point you're going to have an exit plan, meaning literally on the wall. If you're here, go out this way to get to the exit of the house. So they want to see that this house, what does it look like if I did a real simple drawing? But she was ready to go spend thousands of dollars with an architect. And it's like, no, take a piece of paper, fill this out. Then there was another question that was asking her for some information. It was like, what kind of care do you provide for the residents? She said, do I have to hire somebody to write this? And so I'm like, no, stop. What you put down is, we take care of the elderly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have certified caregivers that take care of their ADLs, activities of daily living. Those include bump, bump, bump. So it's like one sentence and it's done. But if you don't know what you're doing, you go to that paperwork and it freaks you out and you don't even bother. But if you have somebody help you through it, you get through that, jump through the hoop, the good news is you're on the other side. And that's the payday.
Yeah, and that's funny. You just described exactly where I got stopped. So that's pretty funny. Now, when you say ADLs, most people maybe remember or don't know, but I was previously a life insurance guy, and that was a long time ago. But that's where I first heard the term and thought about it, and that actually gets me to this next piece of understanding. I got to understand, most people I know don't have an extra $5,000 laying around to pay for grandma to go and stay at a house. So I get concerned about there may be a lot of customers who are physically in that age group, but that doesn't mean they have the ability to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
How does that get addressed? Okay, I promise I'm going to get you to the question because I know you want to know, how on earth do people pay for this type of service? You're probably getting excited about it. I can tell you that I have gotten excited about this whole, assisted living facilities thing, and we're going to get you back to that in just 1 second. But we've got to do some business. What is that business? We got to let you guys know, those of you who have been faithfully writing, star rate and review. For those of you who have been rating the show, I thank you very much, and I need to announce today's winner. Today's winner will be receiving a copy of the Cashflow board game, the new version by the Rich Dad Company. So if you have ever star rated and reviewed, remember, you got to leave the written review with your username so that it can count. And most importantly, we can let you know that you are the winner. If you have ever done that, you are always entered. So that means go do it now, because today's winner is Sabrina Carapia. Sabrina Carapia. That is exactly what I see in terms of your username. So you send us an email to info@cashflowdiary.com, info@cashflowdiary.com with your shipping details. That's name, address, phone number, and we'll be able to go ahead and get the game out to you. I'm glad that you guys take the time to listen and you keep investing each and every episode. Here's a question. If there was a guest you could choose, who would you want us to try and go get? Send us another email to info@cashflowdiary.com with the title mystery guest at the top in the subject line. info@cashflowdiary.com, mystery guest, and I will see who on that list we could possibly wrangle up for you. Now, obviously, you want them to be specific to this particular episode or this particular show and the things that we're trying to achieve. I'm looking to see who you guys want to hear from. So now, with that being said, let's see if Gene can show you how to find the money.
Got it. Well, let me give you the three scenarios. One is they have a long-term care insurance policy. Maybe 10% of our population has it. What that is a policy that people have been paying $5,000 a year for the last 10, 20 years, maybe 30 years, and that policy gives them a benefit. The benefit is $100 to $250 a day for up to 2 years, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe a lifetime. But most people don't have that insurance because most people, especially when they're 30 years old, aren't real keen on spending $5,000 a year for when they get old, somebody's going to take care of them. So right. 10% of the people. Now, when you, as an owner of a care home, when you have somebody who has a long-term care policy, that's a beautiful thing because more than likely paying for it is done. I mean, they're going to be paid for. And I may be charging $4,000 for the room, but the long-term care policy allows me to charge up to $6,000. And if you don't use it, you lose it. So I'll bill for the full $6,000 and get $6,000 for my $4,000 room. It's a beautiful thing. So that's one end. The other end is somebody who is broke. They have no money. They've gone to the state and say, look, I'm old. I can't take care of myself. I need help. So there's programs. The Fed gives money to the state through Medicaid, Medicare. The state has their own programs and they dish that out with their own criteria to people who need it. So in this case, some states like California has a program where they will give about $1,000 a month to a senior towards their long-term care. In Arizona, they'll give about $1,700 a month. Colorado, they'll give up to $2,200 a month. Now, if all I accepted was that subsidized, rates from those, I couldn't make good money doing it. So that person who's only got the subsidy, they don't have any more money or assets and so on. They're getting, $1,700 a month from the government. They can only afford to be in a home that is going to be in a lesser area with lesser quality care, lesser food, tighter rooms, not so nice. So that's not my focus, and VA falls into the same category there. My focus is the people in between, where it's private pay. So this is where the kids are going to pay for mom and dad, or mom owns a house and now they liquidate the house and they have those assets, or there's a IRA or retirement account or cash in the bank and so on. So usually what really typically happens here, Jay, is that the adult gets older, and at some point, one of the kids steps up and says, well, I'll help you with the finances. I'll be the power of attorney. They sign it over to the child, and that child might be 60 years old, and they're the one that's, quote unquote, good with numbers in the family. And they now say, how do we take care of mom and dad? And they go through the gauntlet of what I just described. Well, we've got X number of dollars. We can't get the free subsidy. We don't have a long-term care policy. So we have $400,000 here in her estate. And what do we do? So they kind of figure it out. Okay, I think she's going to live for 3 years. And then they back it out and they say, okay, so we can afford X number of dollars a month. And now they go out and see what's out there. So we're one of the choices. The big boxes are one of the choices. And that's the group that I focus on, because that's the lucrative group. You can make a lot more money there. The insurance, long-term care, all day long, love to see it, but there's not that many people with it. The subsidized, it's very similar to Section 8. You're going to get the rent. The people are very nice people. It's just not necessarily the location that I want to deal with, or I can't make the money in that regard. In this case, private pay is really the sweet spot.
Got it. So for those of you who have been following for a while, you know that we always talk about your Walmart targeted Nordstrom properties, Walmart targeted Nordstrom expectations for the customers. And I think we just heard that defined here for all of us. And you can hear how that part of the investor identity still plays. Here's an interesting question. Is it possible? Because I've looked at a number of gas stations before in the past, and I know that there are times where you can buy the business separate from the real estate. Does that same opportunity exist in ALFs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just today, before I was hustling back to make sure I was here at the computer to do this interview right here, I was doing a site selection tour with some of my students here in Arizona, and we're out looking at property. And basically, they're saying, "Well, we want to own the real estate, but we don't want to necessarily operate the business." I said, well, that's fine. If you have the real estate and you get it fixed up the way it would want to be for a care home, you could lease that out to the operator and probably get twice the fair market rent. And they're like, what? What do you mean twice? Well, if this house that you're looking at would normally rent for $3,000, you could rent it to the operator of the business for $6,000, and they'd be happy to pay it. They'll give you a long-term lease, 5 years with 2 5-year renewals, long-term, low-impact tenant. The seniors aren't tearing up the home. So, yeah, why would they be willing to pay twice the fair market rent? Because they didn't have to buy the house, come up with a down payment, fix it up, or whatever,
right.
And they're going to be making $10,000 or $15,000 in profit. So, you could be just the real estate investor or just the operator.
Got it. Now, and you bring up this. You bring it up a number of times. When I think about turnover, how long does someone? I mean, this sounds really morbid to say, but how long do you really expect a tenant to be there?
I'm so used to this. Don't worry, it's not morbid at all. And those listening, hey, we're all going to die, so get ready. Here's the deal. Here's the national averages. The average person is going to need 3.5 years of care. So whether that's assisted living, in-home care, nursing home, 3.5 years. So we have some residents that have been in the home for 7-8 years. Others that have been there. Well, sometimes people move in and within a month they're gone. And they didn't move to another home. They moved on to their final home. So I think, it could be a year. That may be the average, but they're typically not, they're coming to this towards the end. They're not 65, they're 85. And if you get to 86, that's good. If you get to 96, hey, I'm happy. So my goal is to keep them there as long as possible. And the family wants them alive too. And again, not to be crass, but here's the thing. Some of you might be worrying, well, what happens if they die in the home? Well, 99% of them do die in the home. This is what happens. And that's it. So towards the end, you invite the family in. Hey, dad's fading. This is the time. Come on in. And those last couple of days, they're a lot closer and hanging out. And that's all good. It's all part of the do good and do well of this right here. But when dad does pass, when mom does pass, it's a relief. They know that she's in a better place, but also it's not costing them $5,000 a month to take care of mom anymore. I know that's crass.
No. I don't consider. I've owned enough units now to where the idea of people passing, I've actually had to deal with it on both ends. I've had an older person move out just before they passed, and I've had a baby pass away and during the night.
Wow.
And those were. It's the same. Yeah, I don't exactly enjoy that part of when you get that phone call. But this now you're taking it on as an occupational hazard, so to speak. This is something that this is what's going to happen inside the business. Now, I guess the question becomes if if I'm looking at everything across the board, that I know for me, the thing that comes up is I would rather hire somebody to run the caregiving part. I do want to operate and own and operate that business. And I guess that's what you meant when you say you're licensed for 10. You're licensed for 10 houses, or is that 10 beds? And
10 beds.
10 beds. Oh, okay. Got it. So every house, then if I had a house I have to get a license for each house?
Yeah. Each house has its own separate license. And you need a manager and you need caregivers, but each house has a license.
Got it. So the idea of actually delivering the service doesn't have to be me. In fact, probably in my case, I don't want it to be me.
No, it shouldn't be you.
And so now how does this manager, is this where the nursing people come in? Is that what I missed? Or is that still a business person?
You don't, first of all, you don't have to have a nurse. I happen to have a nurse as a manager because that's a good thing. When you compare one home to another and you come to my home and we have a nurse on staff, right? The manager is a nurse. That's a really good thing, but you don't have to have that. So you never have to have a nurse. You have to have a nurse on call, which means you could dial 911 and we all have doctors and nurses on call. But my manager happens to be a nurse, but it's not required.
You keep talking, and I might end up doing this. I mean, it was something I was interested in anyway, but I couldn't. You're breaking down the barriers and the walls, which I guess begs the question: why would someone not do this? Why have people looked at this and said no, other than it was just the paperwork was too confusing?
That's a great question, and I think, again, I love to teach people. But I also I'm at the point in life where I'm not going to do it for somebody. Because if somebody's not willing to invest the time, the money, the effort, doesn't have any value to them. I am there to encourage. I'm there to kick them in the pants. I'm there to answer the questions, but I'm not going to do it for them. So I think what holds people back is simply fear. It's the fear of the unknown, or I've not done this before. Or a lot of guys can relate to this, or women can. Sometimes we're just afraid to ask the question. Like right now, you're asking me questions and we could go for hours, and we can do more interviews later if you'd like. But the point is, if you're not willing to ask the question, you'll never get the answer. But if you're willing to ask the question, you can get the answer to anything. So by asking and getting the question, you can get through any problem. So the gauntlets that people face are, well, I don't have good credit. I can't buy the property. Okay, rent one. Oh, well, the landlord, blah, blah, blah. You can come up with all the excuses you want to hold you back, but you need to just decide, how can I make it work? And when you ask yourself the right question, your mind is magical. It will come up with the answer. You will get through that. And, when you say, why wouldn't somebody get involved? Here's the way I look at it, Jay. Everybody's going to be involved in this. You're either going to own the business or you're going to be writing a check and sleeping in the bed for my business. So I need residents. So I don't need everybody to do this. I'm more than willing to accept you all as residents. I got a place for you. Yeah. I won't leave the light on, but I've got a place for you.
Well, the interesting thing is, so I'm taking the economics of what you're telling me, and I'm juxtaposing that against a lot of the real estate. So, for example, just as a way of acquiring, let me posit for those of you who might be thinking, I don't have the credit for it. Squash the credit. A simple lease, master lease agreement for this particular building, or just a standard lease agreement for the house. It could be enough to get you in the game, because you need control over the real estate more than you need to necessarily own the real estate. That's really what
Bingo.
I'm hearing.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah, and once you've gained that, you're good. I mean, this could even work for the quote unquote upside down negative equity house if you can
Uh-huh.
be simply because the cash flow is from what I'm hearing is insane. Okay, so we've talked a lot about top line, but what's typical operating expense ratios on something like this? Are we talking 40%, 30%, 80% of revenue?
Yeah, I would say 30% is kind of a good benchmark. So gross revenue, let's say a 50, 30% coming to the bottom line, 15. It could be 20, it could be 40, but if I said 30, I think that's a good reasonable number for a well-operated home.
Got it. So if I wanted to, could I increase could I increase the number of services that we provide? So say competitive advantage, house to house, they're in the same neighborhood next door. What do I do to make sure that mine wins?
Yeah, gotcha. If it truly is in the same neighborhood next door, then it's really about the amenities within that home. When we were out doing the site selection with some students today, you walk into some homes, it's like, wow, this feels great. Well, that's something you can't buy. It either has it or it doesn't. You walk into other homes and it's like, okay, there's a wall in front of you with a mirror and a picture, but you walk into some and you just get that feel. So other homes you walk in the backyard and it's a block wall with rocks in the backyard. And other ones you walk out and there's fountains and lawn and rose gardens. So those type of amenities can make a big, big difference. I think a lot of us, think about this and say, well, if I had a shuffleboard court and if I had gardens for them to plant in, and if there was an arts and crafts room, and if there was yeah, that's all well and good. But really, grandma's not going to be taking a hot tub bath. She's not out planting parsley in the garden. I know we'd like to think that, but here's the deal. It's the curb appeal for the family. That's your client. When you walk up to the front door, does it look good? Does it feel good? Does it smell good? Is there food cooking? Are there cookies being in the background? All of that look good, feel good, smell good is really important because the resident's family is your customer. They're the ones making the decision. So when you go in the home, a bedroom is a bedroom, but was it designed by me or my wife? Now, if it's designed by me, you're not moving in there unless you have to. If it's designed by my wife, people would pay to be there, and that's the difference. So she comes in and does the decorations and it looks awesome. Furniture, it's not like a king bed. Most of the beds are twin beds or full size bed at most because it's hard to reach over and help somebody out of the bed if it's a queen bed. You can't do that. So there's all kinds of things you can do, but it's the curb appeal. And really what it comes down to is the care. When you walk in and that caregiver greets you with a big smile and says, oh, it's so nice to have you here. That is huge, as opposed to walking in and saying, wow, the house is great, but the caregivers really have a sour attitude. And, I don't like their demeanor. They're the ones taking care of mom. That's more important than the house. But it still has to look good, feel good, smell good. But the caregivers are really your selling point.
So if for example, what's I mean, so many questions, so little time. What is so someone like myself or anyone who might actually already know, say, let's assume we know how to get the real estate. How long till we? What's the time to market? How long does it take to get one of these up and running?
Got it. The fastest way, and this is what I teach when I do the trainings. The fastest way to do it is to buy an existing business because the business is already in place, cash flowing, licensed. Sprinklers are in, all of that. Literally, you're closed and you're cash flowing day one. So that's the fastest way. The second would be to buy an existing home. So it already exists. Now we're just doing some renovation. So how long does a renovation take? Could take a weekend, could take 6 months, depending on what you're doing. The licensing in California, they will tell you at the Department of Health Services, it could take up to a year to get your license. Well, that's if you did absolutely everything wrong. If you do everything wrong, yeah, it's going to take you a year. But if you did it right, it could happen in 2 months or less. And that's what I've learned is that if you help them help you, when I submit an application, I don't just submit it and hope. I walk in and I say, can I talk to the surveyor, that's the inspector, and have them review my application right here and now with me so you can tell me if I'm missing anything. Because if I'm missing something, it's going to get into a pile. They're going to look at it and say they're missing something. They're literally going to write a letter, snail mail. 2 weeks later, you get a letter saying you're missing something. Now you're freaking out. What did I miss? I thought I had it right. Now you're guessing at it. So that's what takes people a year to do it because they don't know how to do it. You do it. And that's what I teach people how to do. You do it right. You do it right the first time. You go there, have them review it. If you're missing something, fix it. So when you submit it, it's all right. And they know that they've already reviewed it. So now you kind of move to the top of the pile and life is easy. Then when it comes to the inspection, yep, you have to get in the queue for the inspection. But how do we get to the top of the queue? Well, again, if you've already talked to them a little bit and say, you've already reviewed this here. If you're in the area, can you stop by? You just make life easy. So you make yourself easy to deal with versus hard to deal with. And now that process of getting licensed is 2 months instead of 12. So 12 is outrageous. 2 is on the short side. It could be done in less than 2. It's really about availability of inspectors and timing of paper submissions. But let's say you get it under contract and you close 60 days later. Now we have to do whatever renovations. So if you've already had the plans and you pull permits and you're ready to rock on whatever you need to do for the renovation, let's say that takes a month or two. And now you do your inspections with the fire and so on. Now you submit your application. So it could be 6 months before you're ready to open the door. So during the 6 months, it's part of what I teach. You've got to be prepared for that. 6 months of no cash flow, 6 months of expenses going out, no income coming in. And then the moment you open the door, it's not like they just all of a sudden 10 people waddle in and sit down. Right. So if you've done the preparation work, if you've already made your contacts, like I'll go out and I'll network with the referral agents and the local referral sources to have them come in while we're even doing the renovation to say, what would you do? What do you think? How would you do it? Because then they get buy-in and it's like, it's my house, right? They get buy-in.
Right.
So now they're getting excited about that location. And now you have an open house and make it a party. We do shrimp and chocolate and wine and cheese, and all the referral agents come in and all the resources are there. So we've got 50 people touring the house. They love it. It looks good, smells good, feels good. So on our last one that we opened up, 4 days after the open house, we had our first resident. So if you do it properly, you can fill the house relatively quickly. Now it's a matter of filling it quickly is one thing, filling it quickly with the right residents who are paying the proper amounts. Because I can fill it at $3,000 a month, but I want to fill it for $5,000 per person a month. So at the beginning, you might accept people to fill the house to get the cash flow. And then later on, as those people move on, then you raise the rents to where they should be. So those are all the secrets of the industry.
Well, that's not too different from what we do when I tend to buy a lot of vacant apartment buildings, and what you just described is a very similar process. So I was like, okay, I can live with that, and I understand where you're coming from. So before we get, because I want to tell everybody, because I know, so they're going to email me, and I don't want that to happen. I'm like, no, you need to talk to Gene. We're going to definitely let everybody know how they can go find out more and participate in some of the offerings that you have available. But I got to ask these two things, because this goes through my head all the time. There's got to be some geography play here in the sense of, I'm thinking, is Alaska not the place and Phoenix the place or California the place simply because of the weather? I mean, I'm thinking that's got to play into your business in some way, shape, or form.
Well, interestingly enough, Alaska is one of the highest rates in the nation. So it's interesting. All right. When we're talking assisted living, they're not just, when somebody's thinking of retiring and saying, I'm going to move from Minnesota, they're like, I want to be warm. So I'm 55, 65. I'm going to move to Florida or Texas or Arizona. That's not our client yet. Right. So now they move down there. And then when it's time for them to need care, they're not going to move back to Minnesota. Maybe they would, but they're probably going to stay in Florida or Texas or Florida or Arizona. So yeah, there are more seniors in the southern warm states, but most people don't move south to retire. They stay where they're at, and they stay in that same house, that same neighborhood. Most people, years ago, the statistic was half the people never, moved more than 100 miles or visited more than 100 miles from their house, something crazy like that. Today, we're a lot more mobile, but if they were in Minnesota, they don't want to necessarily move. They're just going to stay in their house in Minnesota. So now it's time to retire. Now it's not time to let's go get warm. It's time to let's make sure we're close to the grandkids. So we're back to the family, the residents. So we have people that, it's rare that the person that moves to Arizona to move into an assisted living facility, they're already here. So they might have moved here earlier, but they're already here. Short answer is you can do it anywhere.
Yeah. Okay. And then, here's the quintessential California concern or problem or thing that I'm thinking about. A lot of the houses that, I've looked at in the past, for our own personal use for many different for many different reasons, they're, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square feet, what have you, really big houses. And of course, we have many plans for using it, but there's a lot of these that are there. And the thing that comes to my mind is, when I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, well, shoot, if I can, I could probably figure out a way to make one of those, $2.5 million monstrosities actually cash flow with this idea. Is that like, are you just like, Jay, that's way too out in left field? Come back to home base a little bit.
No, you can definitely do it. The question is, and I get this all the time, especially from California, because the prices are so high. People saying, should I do it here, or should I come to Arizona, or should I go to, Colorado? And the answer is, why are you doing it? If you're doing it because you want to be hands off, it's just about the cash flow, then it's just follow the numbers. Where does it work best for the numbers? If you're saying, well, I'm in California, so I want this to be within an hour so I can drive there anytime if I want to, got it. You've limited yourself geographically to that 1 hour circle. Draw the circle and pick a place. But if that home costs $2 million in California and you can buy the same home for $600,000 in Arizona, and you're making more money if it's in Arizona, and your plan is not to be hands-on day to day, then maybe you should think about doing it someplace else other than Cali. And Cali is also, we know that we got the state tax. That's an issue. They're not all that business friendly unless you're the big business. And it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And, $15 an hour, I don't know what people are thinking, but if the person who's making $8 an hour goes to 15, the person who is making 15 goes to 30. So if all the labor cost goes up, that just gets passed directly on to that individual who's consuming. So in this case, consuming means they're paying $5,000 a month to live in that bed. Now they're going to have to pay $6,000 a month because it's going to cost the extra $1,000 to pay for that labor. So it all gets trickled down. It's all passed to them. So, different straits, different things, but it's your goal. What do you really want to get out of this?
Got it. And just so for everyone's clarification as well as mine, when you said beds, that could mean multiple people in the same room.
Oh, yeah. 2 beds in a room, easy. Private, you get more for a private room. You get more for a bathroom. You get more for a private room with a bathroom. So it just goes in the house. You might have some people at 3,000 and some people at 8,000. Just depends on what amenities they have.
Nice. Now, I know that a number of people have probably another 200 questions. We don't have time to get them all answered, but you ingeniously are filling a void in the marketplace, and I definitely want you to tell everybody about it, because I don't want someone who goes, yes, that's the customer I want to serve, but I don't know X, Y, and Z, and I don't want them to not get started and go out there in business. So before we end, could you do me a favor? Tell us how to find out more about what you got going on, your trading academy, so that more of us can go out there and become the entrepreneurs that I think we're destined to be.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to give you the website, and I want you to write it down if you're probably ready for that. And I'm going to tell you what I can help you with. So the website is simply ALF, so assisted living facility, but ALF, trainingacademy.com. So alftrainingacademy.com. When you go there, there's about a 20-minute webinar on the front page. Feel free to watch. It'll walk you through numbers and really help you understand better what this is. I have a free report you can get. Go to the contact page and just put down your information. I'll send you that free report, and actually a number of different things that will be helpful for information. And if you're saying, I really want to learn how to do this, I have a home study course, which is kind of like getting a CD where you listen to it at home. It's a DVD, but I'm trying to make a comparison. The live class that I have, which is in Arizona, and the reason why I do it in Arizona is because you come to my homes where you get to learn the business from the inside out. You meet the caregivers, you meet the managers, you see the residents, you see the renovations, you really see it from the inside out, and that context to the information, the content is really how you learn. So I have a 3-day training, and you can learn more about that on the website, or send me information on the contact saying I want to learn about the 3-day training, and I'll tell you about that. But the difference, I always get the question, Jay, the home study versus the live training, alftrainingacademy.com. Sometimes people ask the difference between those two. And I say, well, it's the difference between the home study is like getting the CD of the band, enjoying it. And then the live training is like coming to the concert, backstage passes, eating the buffet with the band, asking any question you ever wanted to. So if you really want to learn how to do this, come on out to Arizona. The classes do fill quickly, and I only do it 6 times a year. And it's amazing how much interest is in this sector right now. I mean, this is the place to be. So come to alftrainingacademy.com, send you some information, and maybe we can talk together.
Indeed, indeed. Well, you said it first. There's only 77 million people to serve. So, hey,
That's
we
all.
got to do something. So before we end, though, I've got to ask you this question. Let's pretend for a second that there's someone out there listening who is standing outside the superhero costume store thinking, you know what, I want to become one of those entrepreneur people. I want to pick out my cape, my mask, and go out there and make this thing happen. They think they have an idea that's worthwhile. But they're still feeling a little hesitation, a little trepidation. There's still that, I don't know, that was an 18-page application.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that person right now?
A couple of things. One is, you can't know everything. Jay, you and I are a lot alike. We're always asking questions. I want to learn from somebody else. And the person who shared this with me was 30 years younger than me. So he's teaching me. It's not an age thing. They know something that I need to know. So ask questions. 2, don't think small. Too many people think small. I'm going to get a little $50,000 fixer-upper in the middle of no place because why? If you're going to do one deal that you're set for life with. I learned that from one of my mentors. And the third thing is get a mentor, somebody who's doing what you want to be doing, and hang with them, whatever that means, whether it's take them to lunch or come to their training or whatever. But if you really want to do something, focus on what you want to do, because we get what we focus on in life. If you ask yourself the wrong questions, why am I always late? Why am I fat? Why am I this? Why am I that? You're going to get those answers. Well, you're always late because, you're always broke because. But if you ask yourself, how can I make it work? How can I do one deal and be set for life, making $10,000, $15,000 a month from just one deal, and do it this year in 2015? Just one deal. What would it be? The only thing I can come up with is residential assisted living.
Nice. I definitely appreciate you, sir, taking the time to invest with us here at the Cashflow Diary audience.
My pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. Why? Because you just heard there's 77 million potential customers out there, and you cannot tell me that you have a better idea right now. And if you do, you need to act on that one. In addition to this one, right now, what you need to do, though, is probably get over to alftrainingacademy.com, hit the contact page, get the free report, watch the video. Most importantly, take one measurable action step towards this goal. You know you were excited because you heard me be excited about this. Make something happen today. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Until next time.